live again. It's me, Anisha. I'm a developer evangelist here at Amazon, and today I'm joined by Mario, as usual. Hey, Mario.
Hey, hey, Anisha, and hello, everyone. Very happy to be live again. For those that don't know me, my name is Mario. It's a me, and I am also working in Anisha's team within the developer evangelist team at Amazon. And yeah, we have a lot of exciting new stuff that we want to share with you guys.
Cool. Before we jump into today's topic, as usual, we have some housekeeping. So don't forget to use the chat to engage. You can ask us your questions. You can ask us about what's coming up next week. Feel free to engage. We love hearing your questions. That's what we're here for. We will be here as usual every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. That's 10 a.m. PST, which might be slightly different this week because the clocks have changed in America. I get confused all the time, but 6 p.m. GMT, we're here. Don't forget to be respectful when you speak in the chat. We want to create like a great environment for everybody to feel comfortable. So just use respectful language. And don't forget to follow and subscribe so you can get notified every time we are here. So I'll let Mario introduce today's topic.
Yes, so today we have a very exciting topic for Fire TV developers, which is optimizing Amazon Fire TV app performance. So, optimizing applications is very complicated, but when it comes to TV in particular, it's very interesting because it's a unique type of application. It's a very specific type of usage, and most of the time we're talking about making sure that your application, which most of the time is a media and entertainment application, performs in the best way possible. So today we are actually going through quite a lot of information about how you can actually verify the performance of your application so you can then optimize it and make it perform in the best way possible for our customers. So we have actually prepared, as usual, a very nice set of information for you. And one of the first things that we are going to jump in actually today is we will start talking about the developer tools menu. So pretty much most of the features that you will see that we will navigate today is we'll touch on how you can enable some additional information displayed on the Fire TV UI, as the developer tools menu provides a number of options that provide real-time metrics and other information about your application. All this information can assist you in troubleshooting, developing, and testing your application. So for the next slide, I will actually pass over to Anisha that will show you first of all what is the how do you invoke the developer tools menu, and what actually can you do.
Yeah, so as you guys can see on screen is what your developer tools menu would look like. But how do you get to this is probably the question you all have. So there's three ways you can do this, and I'm going to cover all three. The first is to use the Android Debug Bridge, or ADB. So if ADB is enabled on Fire TV and a computer is connected, you can run the command ADB shell start com.amazon, and the rest of it is on screen, but I will also pull that up real quick as a banner so you can check this out. Maybe Mario can put this in the chat if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
I just completely resized my screen. Sorry. Give me a sec. There we go. Back to normal. So yes, you just need to run this command in your terminal and you should be able to connect to ADB. So when you use this ADB command, you'll need to also enable ADB debugging on your Fire TV settings and have Android Studio installed on your computer if that's what you prefer using. Then you need to know your Fire TV's IP address. And for this, you can go onto settings, My Fire TV, About, and then Network. Once you collect the IP address from there, you just put this in and you do ADB connect the IP address, replacing the last part with your IP address. and you can leave 555 as the port. So if you run through this yourself, you'll see what I mean when you select where to get your Fire TV's IP address from. The second way is to use your games controller. So this is slightly easier. For this, you just need to press down A and Y buttons together for 5 seconds, release the buttons, and then press the controller menu. And finally, you can use your remote control or your D-pad remote. And this is also really easy. So I've got a little animation here. So the first thing to do is press down the center button for 1 second. Once you've done that, press down the center button and the down button and hold these for 3 to 4 seconds. And finally, you need to press the menu button and press that down. And if this doesn't work, try holding the center and down buttons simultaneously instead of staggering it. So 3 really easy ways to connect your laptop to ADB.
And one thing that I want to add here is that it takes a couple tries. So if it doesn't show up immediately, keep on it. It's not super obvious, the combination. But trust me, it works. If it doesn't work, it's because some button is not being fully pressed, or like one trick is like if you that I use, for example, is to keep press the center button and the down button with the same finger, and that really helps. Then you can switch easily, move to the menu button. It's a little bit of a pain. So maybe the ADB solution, if you're a little bit of a developer and you're familiar with ADB, it's easier. But yeah, all of these are viable options. One additional thing that I want to mention is the Amazon Game Controller. Great tip. The only thing is that is no longer available for purchase. So if you already have it, that's great. You can follow the commands. The same commands should work on any connected Bluetooth device, but they might vary from which game controller you're having. So remote and ADB are probably the safest options. Sorry, Anisha, back to you.
No, it's actually you next again, Mario.
Ha! Actually, you're right, because we are going to talk about System X-Ray. So before we jump in and show you what it looks like, let me explain what it is. So as System X-Ray is a tool that helps internal and external developers identify applications or system problems on Amazon Fire TV devices. So this is something that even we at Amazon use to troubleshoot applications when we're testing them. So System X-Ray gathers instantaneous system metrics and basically displays a UI on top of the screen as an overlay. And when it is toggled on, this overlay will always be visible on the screen, so it will likely overlap with what you have on screen. So for example, if you're playing an app or playing a game, it will always show on top. One call out. System X-Ray is available on all Amazon Fire TV and Fire TV Stick devices with FireOS with version 5.0.2 or higher, which should be most of the Amazon Fire TV out there and the devices that are mostly in the hands of customers. If you have a version that is previous, which is not on FireOS 5 or as a lower version, FireOS 5 0.1, for example, then this might not work and you will not be able to access System X-Ray. So how do you enable System X-Ray? That's actually very easy. It's literally one button. So once you turn on the developer options, you go to Developer Tools menu and enable System X-Ray. That is literally turning that on. And what appears is on the next slide. And Anisha, I will let you take over navigating through the different functions of X-Ray.
Yeah. So as Mario said, the overlay appears. So this is what that overlay would look like. And it looks like a lot of information, but don't worry, I'm going to talk about pretty much everything that you see here. So this overlay will again appear over anything that you're displaying at that point in time. And you can navigate around your app or your game as you look at this overlay because it will stay in place while you're doing this. So it's divided into 4 sections: display, CPU, memory, and network. So let's dive into each of these sections a little bit more. So the first one is display, and this shows two pieces of information, which is HDMI mode. This shows the physical height of the display in pixels and the refresh rate in frames per second. For example, if the display shows 180p 60, as you can see, this means that it's 180 pixels in the physical height of display and 60 seconds refresh rate 60 refresh rate in frames per second. It's quite a mouthful, isn't it? Next, we have the HDPC, which is the high bandwidth content protection, a version used by Amazon Fire TV to encrypt the content that is sent through the HDMI cable to the TV. So Fire TV allows users to change the resolution by going into settings, display, and then video resolution. However, regardless of the resolution that a user might select, an app can change the selected resolution due to network or system resource reasons to give those users a better experience. For example, if you look at YouTube app, when it plays video, if your network connection is slow, the app might appear in lower resolution to ensure that that playback is smooth. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add here, Mario?
Not really. No, that's all very detailed information.
Cool. So next we have CPU. So if you did computer science, you know that this stands for Central Processing Unit. And the CPU section shows the percentage in CPU usage of each of the cores of the device in real time in different colors. So each column represents a different core, and the CPU usage is depicted as either green, orange, or red. Green is 0 to 33%, which is low utilization. 34 to 66% is moderate utilization, and this shows in orange. And then we have 67 to 100%, which shows high utilization in red. If a Fire TV device only has two cores, as say with the Fire Stick, only two columns will appear. And CPU utilization can help identify which apps you have that are CPU intensive. So a code that shows consistently heavy may indicate you need to make the process more multi-threaded. Cool. I'll pause here if there are any questions, or Mario, if you had anything to add.
So far, there are no questions. I think the thing that I wanted to double click on is about the CPU usage, which is something that is I would say not uber intensive. Usually for media and entertainment application, is very important for game developers. The Fire TV devices like the Fire TV Cube are slightly more powerful. So on these devices, running very high demanding 3D games is not a problem. However, on the lower end Fire TV stick devices, and in particular older models like those that run FireOS 5 or even earlier, sometimes these devices, like if you're running a latest generation high intensive, let's say Unity or Unreal powered mobile game, it can be very stressful for the CPU. So using X-ray to monitor the status of the device processor, making sure there are no peaks and that you're not stressing out the device, it's very important. Because if you're maxing out the CPUs, then your game might start being jittery. It might even crash. So it's important to keep an eye on real world performance of your apps and games, particularly.
Yeah, really useful advice. And I think that actually also brings us on to our next section, which is memory. So this is again something you probably would want to keep a lot more in mind for games. So the memory section again has three parts. So there's labels of app, other, and available. So app shows the memory usage specifically for the foreground applications and the package name of the foreground application, and this shows in blue. The package name of the foreground application is displayed below the bar. If you're on the home screen, this would show as com.amazon.tv.launcher, which appears as the app name. Next, we have other memory, which shows in gray, and this shows memory used by other applications. And finally, we have available memory, which shows in white, And this shows the free memory on the device. So in this particular example, we have 132 MBs used by Amazon Fire TV launcher. 1.2 GB is used by the whole system, and then there's still 276.2 megabits available. The memory information is really useful, and because this can help you detect either memory leaks, if you have excessive memory consumption, or low memory conditions on the device. Cool. I will jump on to the last part of what Systems X-ray shows us, which is network. So the network section shows the strength of the Wi-Fi signal along with the download rates across the entire device and for the visible app. And again, we have three sections. So we have the RSSI, which is the received signal strength indicator. This shows you how strong the Wi-Fi signal is measured in dBm, which is the value of the radio signal. The bar indicates the signal strength and is color coded using the same color coded system as the CPU section to indicate like the severity of the problem. So green is strong signal, orange is average, and red is weak. The number is always negative. With better signal strength, the number moves closer to 0. And if the Fire TV has a wired connection and it is not using Wi-Fi, then this section won't be shown. So next we have system, and this measures how many bits per second are being actively downloaded to the device, including both visible and background apps. And this is not the available bandwidth. So if 0 BPS is displayed, no data is being downloaded at the moment. And finally, we have the visible section. So this measures how many bits per second are being actively downloaded by the visible, or as we call them, foreground app. And this number will never be higher than the system download speed. And again, so why would this network section be useful to us? So it helps us diagnose issues that may be related to, say, connectivity issues, slow download speeds, or lower quality streams. So maybe you might think, oh, your app is the one being slow, but it could also be because of network connection, which is really good to know. So you're not debugging something that's working completely fine.
Yeah, no, this is, I would say that probably this is the flip side of what we were saying for games that where CPU and GPU are very important. Is probably maybe slightly less relevant, unless of course you're playing a multiplayer game. But it's very relevant for media streaming applications, right? Like you said, when you have an application buffering for 20 seconds, is really annoying. So I know that this happens to me all the time when I'm testing applications, and I forget that I'm still on the work VPN, and it takes forever to load things because I'm doing 500 other stuff. But in normal conditions, in I would say production conditions for a developer, this will be a very good indicator of how much bandwidth is your application consuming. If there are any gaps in how your application, you might be also maybe over requesting information, you might be over streaming. And there are also specific situations, like for example, in Europe, most of the data providers are not really capping data, but in a lot of countries and some providers in the US as well, they cap the amount of traffic that you are consuming. And if your application is responsible for some network extra consumptions or leaking data, that can have a substantial impact on your customer's experience, because in media streaming applications, let's say that you're streaming at 4K resolution, can stream entire gigabytes of data when you're streaming some video. So it's extremely important as media and entertainment developers to use System X-ray on Fire TV and monitor the status of your usage and the bandwidth that you're consuming.
No, really useful to know. Cool. So that's
Great.
kind of it from Systems X-ray. But this is not our only developer tool. We actually have many others, as you can see here. And I'll let Mario go through.
Yeah. So there are actually quite a few additional features, like Anisha was saying, and The first of these, and one of the most important as well for, I would say, for media and entertainment application, is the so-called advanced option feature. So when you're using advanced option is an additional panel that enables multimedia information to appear when Android media codecs are in use. So this is mostly happening again for media and entertainment application. So what happens is that when you switch this option on, and then play a media content, of course, that is using a specific codec, an additional display, which is titled MUL for multimedia, audio and video, and OD, AUD, or for audio focus, appears on the right side of your screen. So as you can see here, on top there is MUL, and on the bottom there is AUD. So the information displayed in the multimedia panel is divided into three sections, which are audio, video, and audio focus. One call out is that, and again, like one important call out is that older Fire TV devices, the one that have they can be older models on running versions previous than FireOS 5, might not have the audio focus section. So that is the only one that is missing, while the audio and video section will still be there. Why is it important to have visibility on this? Because you will not believe the amount of Android applications that mismanage the audio focus, for example. It's important that your application is compliant with the Android guidelines for when it comes to requesting audio focus. And if you can use this tool to basically debug that functionality. It's something that is very easy to get wrong. Some developers don't even know that they have to do it. So again, I will not go into the details of managing audio focus, but because that will take an entire session. And if you're interested, let us know. We'll definitely do a session on that. But you can just go and check out the standard Android documentation to learn about autofocus. But advanced option, it's a great tool to troubleshoot your media codecs, video and audio properties of the media content that you're playing inside your application. Great. And the next one, I think, Anisha, I'm passing over to you for a snapshot.
Yeah, cool. So, what is Snapshot? Snapshot provides a way for users to gather instantaneous information about all the metrics through this ADB command. So, whenever you input the following command, metric information will display in the command line. And a sample of what this would look like is something like this. However, you can also filter. So say you want to just get information on memory, you can add dash memory to the end of the command, and same with CPU, network, or multimedia. So this would dump all the multimedia information from the database. So you can filter this out to give you the information that you want, so that you're not overloaded. So quite brief, but really useful information from what you can get from Snapshot. And like one of the other things we can use in conjunction is record and share. So this stores instantaneous information about metrics from the CPU, memory, network, and multimedia into a database as historical data. Although the same information is displayed graphically in real time through the system's X-ray overlay, record and share takes this information and stores it in a history so that you can dump it in the command line. So that information you can see. So to use record and share, you have to first toggle it on, and you can do this in the developer tools menu we saw earlier. Once it's on, you are then prompted to pick two settings. So either the so that was what I was talking about earlier, but you can pick two settings, which is either the interval, which is the time between recordings. So that would be 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 8 seconds, or 16 seconds, and the duration. So how long do you want this information to be stored in the database? So either an hour or longer. The default is 2 seconds and 1 hour, which means that every 2 seconds, statistics will be recorded and stored in the database. The recording will also be stored in the database for a total of an hour. So after playing media to gather some information, you can dump all those historical metrics using that command. As I said, you can append either all, you can get like a brief snapshot of it, or you can filter for your CPU usage. But this gives you a really nice way to decide what bits and pieces of information you want to see. And then next we have Safe Zone, which is Mario.
Of course. So this is something that, if you've been in our previous session when we're talking about designing applications for TV, we touched on pretty in a detailed format. However, this is actually something that you enable through the developer tools again on Fire TV. So again, while this is not straightly related to performance, this is definitely related to testing the UI and the design of your application. So the for those that were not in that presentation, that haven't seen the presentation or content before, some applications use overscan with their display. So overscan means that the TV displays some information off the edges of the visible screen, and this is to accommodate discrepancies in monitors. You should not display important information in the overscan areas. So in order to show that, you can turn on what is called the safe zone to on, and by doing that, you will see this border of red layer appearing on top of your application, and this allows you to making sure that all the core content that you are displaying in your application is correctly displayed for any implementation of the app, even if the user then goes and activates or adjusts the screen. One thing that you need to note again is that Fire TV Stick second generation, which is a fairly older device, does not include size calibration. So that's a feature that is not available. So so if the screen display doesn't fit correctly on the TV screen, the overscan area might not show accurately. So the again, if you're, I think that this is a tool that you're going to end up using in a fairly early stage of the development of your application. Actually, even when you're designing your application, you want to turn on safe zone and make sure that everything is done correctly. But this is not the last and the last feature. So I'll send back to Anisha to touch over briefly on the other options available.
Cool. So if you've seen the screen, you'll see that the other options are something called developer options. So when using your Fire TV or your Fire Stick, you may notice that some third-party apps like Netflix or HBO will display recommendations in specific rows, and this will be available for you to just quickly go into the application. But developer options also allows you to turn on a row called recommended by your apps. And this is actually something we're going to talk about next week, but I'll briefly, go into it, which is this recommended by your apps row will show you recommendations sent by third-party apps. So when you turn on this row, it shows you recommendations from all the third-party apps that the user has installed, excluding the ones that would have their own rows. So this gives you a nice way to see what like a user would see. Next, we have network proxy. So if your app communicates with remote services or websites, it's often useful to inspect the HTTP or the HTTPS traffic it generates. And this includes, requests initiated by your apps and the responses it receives, as well as the HTTP headers, including cookies and caching information. And for this, we have a whole section on network proxy, which I will put in the chat in a few seconds. But if not, the third one is clear credential storage. So this is just a quick option for you. This will allow you to clear any credentials that have set by apps for your Fire TV, kind of like a little reboot And finally, we have Launch Network Advisor. So this launches a network analysis window that checks your network connection strength, channels, and other details. So if there are any problems, the network advisor will give you recommendations to fix these issues. And this is also something that you might see, like say you're using your Fire Stick and this connectivity issues. I guess a similar pop-up would appear. That's kind of it for our developer tools. All these tools are really useful to help you improve your app's performance, app or game. And we have a lot of information on this in our docs. So I'll post a link to
Let
that
me
in the
add
chat.
I will add the link.
Oh,
Great.
perfect.
I already copied it initial. I'll do it.
Okay.
It's fine. Great. So Fire TV developer tools. Here we go. There is a link coming to both Twitch and YouTube, and you can share. You can just access that one. There's a short link that will get you straight into the documentation, and we'll cover everything that you saw today when it comes to the developer tools. So I think it's a combination of everything you've seen today. It depends on the type of application that you're building as well, and that will really inform the type of testing that you'll need to do and the type of optimization that you have to do. There is a question from our friend Ang Chang. Hey Yang. There is a question that says, can you recommend your own preference? What are some of the coolest Amazon Fire TV dev tools out there? What do we use the most? That's a great question. So I think everything that you saw today. I think that the one that I personally use the most when I'm making even sample applications are the safe zone. Again, that is super important as a first stage. Record and share, super important to monitor, like to have a more detailed account of what's going on with the app. And then system X-ray, because that is a very good combo of everything that is going on and like the performance of the app. And even when you're flipping from one app to the other, it gives you good information at a glance. So those are the ones that I end up using the most. But again, one thing that I also wanted to mention is that let's keep in mind that FireOS is still based on top of Android. That means that all the recording and tools and logcat features that you use for normal Android applications, you can totally use for Fire TV applications. If they're if you're building an Android native Java or Kotlin based application, you can use Android Studio to debug your application with all the related features. And the same thing you can do if I might have disappeared for a couple seconds, but hopefully you guys heard me. So those I would say are the main ones. I don't know, Anisha, if you use anything different.
No, but we have spoken about quite a lot of our testing ones. So we've got the app tester that lets us test like DRM and in-app purchases. We also have the live app tester. So all of these can also be used.
Yeah, we are actually working on some upcoming content that we will release soon, which is related to web apps. And there is an additional testing feature for web applications, which is called the Web App Tester, that allows you to directly test and troubleshoot web applications straight into Amazon devices. This is something that you guys have requested over the last few weeks, more content about web apps. So we've been listening and we are hard at work. So hopefully one of the next few weeks we'll be sharing more about web apps. So a good reason to stay tuned and keep an eye on what we're doing.
And I think actually that's a good segue into next week's topic, isn't it?
Yes.
So I will put that up. So as mentioned, next week we'll be talking about content recommendations, or as we call it at Amazon REA, so recommended by your apps. And this is what you might have already seen if you use a Fire TV or a Fire Stick. So you have that row which gives you recommendations based on your apps. Mine are always really crappy documentary series about food, but I'm sure yours are more varied. But we will talk a lot more in detail about how you can implement content recommendations.
Yeah. And it's actually fairly easy, as you will see next week. Again, I don't want to give out too many spoilers, but it's very much an interesting implementation of push notifications, actually. So if you're familiar with push notifications and how to generate those, you will be very familiar with next week topics. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great introduction to both content recommendations and push notification all in once. So yeah, it's a great way to showcase content on Fire TV and get visibility to your content directly in, and present it to your customers. So very powerful, and is part of, as we touched before, is part of that vision of Fire TV that Fire TV has and that we have at Amazon, of building a content forward experience where you are exposing the content of your application outside of your app, but then you're inviting customers to lean in and then, jump in straight into your app. I see there is a comment from Ang that says my recommendation are also pretty random, which is actually something that we will touch on next week, which is how do you use that to actually build recommendations that are meaningful? Because as Anisha said, sometimes you're getting these recommendations that don't really make sense. So we will not really go into the details of like very complex like AI or machine learning based algorithm to provide recommendations, but there are some things that you can do as a developer in particular when you're exposing your content, to make sure that the recommendations that you're providing are actually meaningful. And we might look at a couple examples of what does that look like. Wonderful. So
Um,
that is for next week, but I think we had something more to share about what's coming, right, Anisha?
Yeah, so we're actually hoping to introduce a new section to our Twitch stream. And this is going to be interesting for everybody. So maybe if you find that the stream topic is not entirely like something that you might find interesting, we will also be introducing a section where we talk about everything that's up and coming and new for, in the Fire TV world, in the tablet world, in the App Store world, all our devices, our launches. We will be covering things that may not have their own announcements or you might not have missed. But basically, just giving you a blowdown of updates from the last week. So we're hoping to introduce this pretty soon.
Yeah. And yeah, because sometimes there might be like maybe small changes happening to it could be around the, I don't know, the developer portal, or maybe new smaller functionalities that are released. And we want to make sure that, we share with you guys those features. Of course, we will cover also the major updates and the major, news. We will likely probably do dedicated sessions to these
Mhm.
things. But there is quite a lot that our team at Amazon are working on, and we want to, give visibility for you guys to all these very nice stuff that our team is producing. And there is actually a comment says, "Awesome! Would also love to see you guys do some live coding sometime." That is a open chat, like challenge accepted. We'll do some live coding soon. We'll have actually we try to find the balance between sessions that are maybe too technical and too hands-on versus sessions that are maybe like the one that we've seen today, where we don't really go a lot hands-on, but we give you kind of a lay of the land of more high level topics. But it's a great prompt. We know that you guys love some hands-on coding, so I think we will have quite a lot of like live demos and sample apps that we can share with you over the next sessions. But noted. So
If the
thank
demo
you for that.
gods allow for it, that is.
If the demo gods allows for it, which is never. I have a very funny story about Alexa actually. it was the very early days of Alexa, and I was presenting to a very large group of developers, and it was literally like the first year that we launched Alexa, and we didn't really by then we didn't really refine how Alexa manages the situation when the Wi-Fi goes off. Because right now, if the Wi-Fi it goes off, Alexa says, "I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi. There is a problem. Check your connection." But back then, uh, he didn't do that. So I just spent basically 30 minutes talking about the amazing language capabilities of Alexa. And I turned to do my demo to the Alexa device, and I said, "Alexa, hello, how are you doing?" And she lost connection to the venue Wi-Fi, and the only thing that she was able to say was, "I don't understand what you're saying," which is really annoying when you've just been talking about natural language processing for 30 minutes. But after that, it went smooth. We understood what went wrong, and also went back to the Alexa team, say, "You need to fix that." So yeah,
User testing at its finest.
I know. It's I assume that they didn't really consider the situation when you're in front of
Oh, no, I
300
mean like
people
you were a
giving a
great
talk.
user tester.
That is a
Yeah.
literal stress testing. But brilliant. I don't know, Anish, if you have any testing or performance related horror story to share with the group.
Oh, performance related. I mean, there was a time, I've been working with clients and it's just load. I mean, it's not a horror story. It's more like, I think one of the things I found super interesting was the chaos monkey. So I never knew what it
Ah.
meant. And then I heard this team talking all about like chaos monkey. And what it is just this way of testing, which like it sends out like code that basically like pulls down your servers and just stress tests the crap out of your system basically.
Nice. Yeah, no, there's so many things that can be done in terms of stress testing
Yeah.
application. I saw one for that was more for tablets that is simulating touch, and is basically randomizing the amount of touch inputs that you're getting on a screen, on a touch screen. And it can really sometimes deliver very weird behaviors if the application doesn't manage touch interactions in the best way. And there are many ways to accomplish this. I'm not indicating a specific tool.
Mhm.
I think there was one that was called, again, like monkey touch or something that would sound similar to what you were describing, but for a very different situation, very
Yeah,
modern, like
yeah.
for touch enabled.
That's cool.
There is another question about like, can we talk more about haptic support? That's interesting. I don't think that we ever touch haptics as a subject. But yeah, that's very interesting. We can take note of that. And oh, I see. So you also specifically talk about like multi-touch and gestures. We can do that. I think it would be interesting. Actually, we are working on more content around, for example, touch enabling Fire TV applications.
Mhm.
We did touch on a little bit of that when we were talking about implementing Fire TV apps in the right way. But we can zero in and talk about like how to implement clicks and touch in the right way. I think it's an interesting topic. Wonderful. So we are. I don't see more questions. So I think that we can probably end the live stream here. Thank you as usual for joining us, and again we'll be live again next week at 6 p.m. GMT, and we hope to see you there. Anisha, as usual, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
all your wisdom pearls.
Thank you. And your story on Alexa is very funny. So thank you for sharing.
No worries.
Cool. See you
All
guys
right,
next week.
guys. See you guys next week. Have a great one. Bye bye.
Bye.